Welcome to the pod. You are listening to What the Reality with me, Kasey Roberts. And this is your part two of What's the Reality on the Ramona and Mario Singer divorce. And the people loved the part one. So I'm like, of course, part two is coming. Part one, we really talked about how their relationship really broke down. I talked about season 6. I talked about the rumors and nastiness of summer 2013. I was just a 13-year-old little girl. I was not watching RHONY at the time. My love for RHONY has strictly come as of literally 2024. I got a corporate job. And I have a lot of downtime in the office. So I was able to really get into RHONY last season. And it has been one of my favorite franchises. I always say RHONY and Atlanta go back and forth for me. I cannot crown a favorite because they're very different. Atlanta taught me my game of shade and drama and messiness, and RHONY has taught me my game of living, laughing, and just having fun. So with that, let's get into part two, because yes, that is what you're here for. I got my iPad on my notes. So part two, we're really going to talk about like the season 6 rap party. I want to talk about season 7, a little bit of Ramona's behavior during that season. Like her apology tour, her kind of letting loose, her being the voice of reason. I described her in season 7. I also want to talk about her book, Life of the Ramona Coaster. So I'm going to read a couple excerpts from that. I'm also going to be talking about their reconciliation after the initial filing in January 2014 and what was going on around there. And then we're also going to circle back and talk about the season 6 reunion again, and why she was so guarded and stuff, like what was really going on during that time. And then I also want to talk about Kasey Dexter just a little bit. I'm not going to give this mistress too much, but I want to talk about her and Mario's messy breakup. And then the infamous saying goes, you lose them the same way you get them. So yes, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to tie it up in a nice little bow and wait until the next topic in October that I'll be talking about. But let's just start off with the season 6 rap party, which is where it seems Ramona really understood something was breaking down in her relationship. Like, that's when she kind of figured out, like, hey, what is going on in this relationship? I just wanted to readjust the lighting because it gets so dark as the sun is literally setting. Okay, so let's start with season 6, the infamous rap party. So, I'm going to fast forward to this memoir, Life of the Ramona Coaster. This came out July 28th, 2015. And we actually see her pitch this to the ladies. Well, not pitch it, but I'm actually watching season 7 currently. And on the St. Bart's trip, she does talk about this book coming out and how it's about her life, her marriage, her divorce, all that stuff. And we do see Bethany totally shut it down. Well, you're still going through it. What have you learned? All this stuff. Bethany always got to be a Debbie Downer or something. So we see her in the process of writing this and, just talking about her memoir on season 7. So I want to fast forward to what's in the memoir to give you guys kind of an insight of what was going on during that summer 2013, and then eventually the season 6 rap party. So I'm going to be reading a couple of quotes. I'm going to be reading an excerpt. Okay, so when discussing summer 2013 in the end of season 6, she says this, and this is in regards to the season 6 rap party. Rap party, if you guys don't know, rap party is basically a celebration at the end of any season. They do this notoriously for movies, drama series. It's not reality TV all the time is, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing of, well, I'm not, this isn't the first time I'm hearing about a rap party for a reality show, but I'm just saying, like, it's more typical for like serious actors, you know, comedians and stuff, like do a rap party, like, oh my gosh, like, yay. You know, anyone can do a rap party. I'm sure Candy Burrs did it after her Candy Coated Nights or something. But let's get into what she said. She said, all that summer and into the fall, I was working nonstop. I remember the night of the cast party after we wrapped filming for season 6, I wanted Mario to come with me. He always had at the end of every other season. But he said he was going to Westchester with a friend instead and didn't come home until after midnight. What can you do in Westchester after midnight? Question mark. If I questioned where he was, I felt he would get defensive and snap at me. At that point, I felt his behavior had become very unacceptable, so I decided to go to our Southampton house by myself for the weekend to get some space. When I came home, I remember Mario told me he thought he needed to move out for a while. For the first time, I considered the possibility that there might be another woman, and I asked him straight out if there was. He told me no, and I believed him. After that, he gave me a letter in which he explained how unhappy he had been. I tried to understand where this was coming from because I felt like we had been happy all summer. I remember his response was that it was because he was a good actor. Wow, I just lost my place. I'm sorry, wait. Okay. Yes, I told him that we owed it to our marriage to go to counseling. So we started going to therapy together, and I was hopeful that we would figure out a way to resolve our issues. That October, I remember walking along Park Avenue with one of my good friends before going to therapy one day. And she said to me, quote unquote, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I think you need to know. She paused and then she said slowly, I think Mario has been seeing another woman. What are you talking about? I said in complete denial. Well, you know, the other night when we were at Plaza Athene for that party, people overheard him arguing with a woman on his cell phone when he was in the men's room. He was screaming at her. I was stunned. I remember that Mario had gone off that night to make a phone call, and I had to admit that I did think he was gone for a little too long. I also thought it was strange that he had wanted to meet me at the party, since Mario hates arriving at events on his own. That evening, we went to therapy, and I decided to bring up what my friend had told me. So this is the evening of her friend, not of the party. Although I felt as if we had been making progress and I didn't want him to think I didn't trust him, I couldn't get what she had told me out of my head. I asked him if he had been fighting on the phone with a woman at the Plaza Athene party, but I felt like he just brushed me off and made a joke of it, so I decided to drop the subject. At home later that same night, I walked into the den and I saw that Mario was talking on the phone. I remember as soon as I walked into the room, he got very stiff. Quote unquote, Alan, let me go now. Ramona just walked in. He said abruptly and ended the call. Alan is a good friend, so I said, Mario, why did you hang up? I would have said hello to Alan. This was a different Alan. You don't know him. He answered. I sat down beside Mario. He seemed to be getting agitated. He asked me why I had come into the room, but I couldn't remember. My mind was blank. Then something in my brain just snapped. It was like a veil had been lifted, and it dawned on me that he had not been talking on the phone to a different Alan, or to any man for that matter. I stood up and I looked at him. Quote unquote, Mario, that wasn't a different Alan on the phone, was it? You were talking to a girl just now, weren't you? I remember his face looked like he had seen a ghost. His eyes went wide. His mouth fell open. He had that same expression on his face when I told him I was pregnant with Avery. And I told him that my water broke and we had to go to the hospital. He looked like a deer in headlights. Quote unquote, just admit you were talking to a girl. Just admit it. I shouted. He snapped out of it and got defensive. Yes, I was. Do you want to know what else I do with her besides talk? End quote. So that was an excerpt from Life of a Ramona Coaster. I honestly don't know if this is. I'm sorry, guys. I honestly don't know if that was an excerpt from Life of a Ramona Coaster. I'm pretty sure it was. I got that from Bravo TV. But I'm not sure if this was quoted to Bravo TV or if this was from Life of a Ramona Coaster. Either way, I'm still, throughout this episode, I'm going to get into some quotes and just some things from Life of a Ramona Coaster. But I cannot remember if I took this directly from it, from Bravo TV, or if she was just updating Bravo TV about when she knew or how she found out. So I don't want to be misquoted with that. Allegedly, I think this is from a memoir. So now that we have that, I think it's from the memoir because like quoting all this stuff. Now that we have the straw that broke the camel's back, we kind of know, like, he just admitted it. So that's when he just admitted it, because he was caught with his tail between his legs. Like, he couldn't not deny it. I mean, these phone calls were happening, all this stuff. So that is what happened after the season 6 rat party. They found out. This ultimately leads them to go to more counseling for his cheating, because we'll get into that. So now I want to go to the timelines after season 6. So now that we know that obviously he confessed, and who tipped Ramona off, it was a good friend of hers, and shout out to that friend. We don't know who that friend is, but it is good that her friend told her, like, hey, this is something you should know, and it's something you should have been known. Let's get into kind of the timelines after season 6 leading into season 7. So after the season 6 reunion, well, we got little to no details about the breakup, even though it had been in the tabloids. The only reason we did not get any information during that time is because they were currently in the midst of counseling and working it out. So Ramona had filed for divorce January 2014, but and then like claiming they were separated, and then that's when she initially filed. And that was after catching Mario and Kasey in their Hamptons home. And I even have a quote from Jill Zarin, who told People magazine on January 29th, 2014. She was like, quote unquote, Ramona has been protecting him. She looked the other way when people told her he was cheating. So Jill Zarin was saying people were already telling her he was cheating, and she chose to look the other way. So I don't know what friend, like I said, sometimes it does take a really good friend or someone that's typically wouldn't probably come to you about this messy stuff for you to be like, maybe I should look into it. I personally don't think she was covering for him, because I don't think Ramona would ever have that. Especially how much she like brags about how 100% her relationship was, and like how honest and how much they loved each other. And I just don't believe that she would cover up for him in that way when it came to him cheating. But I do believe there were rumblings that 2013, of course, because everyone has seen it in the paper and stuff. I pulled up a bunch of articles, a bunch of publications. Make sure you guys tune in to part 1 for that. So they ended up reconciling after the initial separation, but she would file for divorce again in August 2014. And that would be the last time. So we're going to really talk about like that January through August time. And the only reason she filed again in August, after they were trying to make it work, because she was posting on social media and stuff like, oh my gosh, like them on vacation, all this other stuff. Like, you would have thought they were back together. And to her surprise, they were back together until she found out in August when she filed that he was still in communication with Kasey. And she was just like, I cannot have that. Like, no, we're not going to be doing that. So, of course. And I even have something from, is this page 6? Let me see. I have to bring this up because I'm sure it's page 6. Page 6 be having on the sea. Even I have this article bookmark, and this was on July 19th, 2014, of Kasey Dexter actually running into Ramona at the restaurant. And I'm wondering if this is what tipped her off to file for divorce again in August 2014. The page 6 article says Real Housewives of New York City star Ramona Singer had a near run-in with husband Mario Singer's former mistress, Kasey Dexter, Wednesday afternoon at Italian eatery Alfredo 100. our sources on the scene said Ramona was in the dining room of the East 54th Street restaurant where she's an investor. When Dexter showed up, security told Dexter to leave, but she asked to use the restroom downstairs. She was escorted by a manager, but then, quote unquote, came up the stairs and tried to make a beeline to the dining room. The manager grabbed the kicking and shouting Dexter, who screamed, "You just don't want me to tell her I'm still effing her husband." And that was July 2014, you guys, as they're in the midst of reconciling. We're told Dexter was carried out of the place by the manager, but Ramona didn't witness it. The melee. What is that? So is that what tipped her off for August? I mean, what tipped her off? So Ramona then revealed that her and Mario had reconciled a month before the season 6 reunion. And that's also where like the confusion of the season 6 gets, because in terms of us watching it, at that point she had already filed. She filed in January. I was saying the reunion filmed around like March, like February, March, because it stopped airing. The finale was like April. So you would definitely film the reunion like I don't know how they did it back then. I know now following Housewives, they do it like 2 weeks before the finale or whatever. Or like a month before the finale, drop the reunion looks 2 weeks later, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know how they did it back then, but it was just confusing as viewers to watch, because we're like, well, you guys, you already filed for divorce, so why are you being essentially so cavalier and guarded about your responses, and essentially alluding to the fact that you guys are living a happy life when it's like it's in the press that you already filed for divorce. It's because they were secretly reconciling after that January initial filing. And so by the time us as viewers are watching the reunion, she is trying to protect their relationship because it's very vulnerable and it's very touchy at the moment because she doesn't know what's going on. And we're going to also talk about season 7. I'm actually about to get into season 7 now because we're going to get more insight as to her behavior on the season 6 reunion. I try not to say I'm really trying not to say but I like say it all the time. So let's get into the season 7 timelines and those revelations. So like I said, RHONY began filming at the end of 2014, like September 2014. And I would say probably through like February, March 2015, and had a premiere of April 7th, 2015. So Bethany's return was, of course, announced. And let's just follow the dates. She had filed for divorce again August 2014. So we know coming into this season 7, Ramona has filed for divorce again. August 2014. They start filming September 2014. So Ramona opens up. Let's get into season 7, which is fresh on my mind because I'm watching it now. Ramona had opened up to essentially all of the ladies, whoever would listen, and that was genuinely there for her, because she did open up to Bethany. Eventually, she opened up to the ladies in St. Bart's at the table, the dinner table, but she really starts her season opening up with Sonia, because you would think Sonia would be a strong confidant for her. And then we also meet Dorinda, who, even I told you guys I just got into RHONY last year. It was insane to me that Dorinda was not an OG, or at least season 3, season 4. Like, it was crazy to me that Dorinda did not join until season 7. And she comes on as Ramona's friend. So Sonia and Dorinda are two people she really tries to, give her story to. Like, this is what's going on in my life at the moment. And like I said, we don't normally see this from Ramona. Ramona's very secret. I mean, not secret, but she's very discreet when it comes to her relationship with Mario, especially the breakup. She wasn't saying much at the reunion. She doesn't really like to address those things. She's very private. Unless it is something amazing that her and Mario are doing, or something amazing Mario has done for her. So we kind of see her in this vulnerable light, and she tells Sonia that for a while she was in denial about what was happening. And this is like the first episode. And then in a confessional in the first episode, Ramona says that Mario was very insistent on controlling Ramona and not allowing her to talk about his indiscretions. So she admitted to allowing him to control her. However, we don't get much of her story with Sonia, because unfortunately Sonia is Sonia Morgan, and she kind of bombards that conversation and makes it about herself and her history in her past with the Morgan guy, the grandpapa. So we don't get that, but we really get a raw conversation between Ramona and Dorinda, which honestly makes me kind of teary-eyed, because like also Ramona's lashes looked amazing. You guys have to pay attention to that scene, like season 7, episode 1. But also like this is the most raw and vulnerable we've seen Ramona, honestly. Like it really is. So Ramona's conversation with Dorinda is totally different with Sonia, because Dorinda just lets her talk, and Dorinda does know her. And then, you know, we forget how connected Ramona and Dorinda are. They really know, they really go a ways back. I'm really trying to avoid that. So, like I said, we get an introduction of Dorinda. And yes, in her conversation with Dorinda, we learned that Ramona hasn't seen pretty much anyone after the reunion, especially during the summer of 2014. This is when she's trying to hash out everything from the summer of 2013, the rumors and nastiness, and following her filing for divorce in January 2014. But obviously she filed August 2014. So summer 2014 also was very chaotic for her. Gruesome. I would say summer 2013 is probably the most, though, because like that's when all the rumors started. Ramona then revealed that Mario blamed the affair on her and called it her fault because he didn't like the way she was treating him. Like, Mario, if you don't go sit down. She also admits she could forgive him for the cheating and look above it. Ramona decided to end it at the end of July, and we do get her saying that on camera, because it just wasn't working anymore. They were together again during the summer, and Avery was home. She said everything was like nice, and then Mario said he was going through a lot of changes. And this is where we kind of get insight, because Mario was not on this season, but we get his story through Ramona. Basically, this is what he had told Ramona. He just said that he was very angry, and she kept saying very angry. So Avery pointed out, like, what do you mean? And he said he also didn't like his life. So also this is like a 50-plus-year-old man, you know, midlife crisis. And Avery defends for Ramona, and then obviously for her, she's like, what do you mean you don't like your life? Like, where your life? You know what I mean? Like, where your life? What do you not like about your life? And Ramona also described Mario as very quote-unquote disrespectful. Ultimately, Ramona, though, felt good in that conversation with Dorinda, like wiping her tears and stuff. She ultimately felt good because she was like, I gave this marriage a shot. Like, I didn't throw it in at the first signal of cheating, even though she could move past it. It was just like the nonstop disrespect and victim mentality of Mario. She's like, I can move past the cheating, but what accountability are you going to take? And he consistently failed to take any accountability. Therefore, she's like, what am I fighting for? And then also when I'm finding out that you're still talking with your former mistress who's still giving your mistress, it just becomes difficult. It's like, what are you fighting for? So she ultimately feels like she had a successful marriage, and I think a lot of people could argue she did. It was a long lasting one. They were married for 25 years, but ultimately it ended. But they had a lot of good years. So her conversation ended with Dorinda, with her looking up on the upside. She was like, you know what? That's what I can say about the relationship. And I think it showed how strong she is. You know, it's just like, if you can look back at a relationship and be like, you know what? It was a successful relationship, even though it ended. I think that shows how much of a woman you are. So let's get into her conversation with Luann, which is by episode 2. So Ramona is just getting these conversations out of the way. So, Ramona in the past has really came for Luann and her relationship with the Count, saying they had an open relationship. Also, just about them, him cheating on her, Luann not being home. She has had a lot to say about Luann's relationship. And, she says, like, the infamous saying is like, you never know what someone's going through until you put your feet in their shoes. And so now it's kind of crazy because she sees what Luann was going through all those years she was fighting for her relationship, which I'm very interested in. I'm interested in that relationship with the Count. So by episode 2, we get a different kind of Ramona. She's leading with a lot of humbleness, a lot of humble pie, and grace, and she's addressing Luann and she's apologizing. Ramona apologizes to Luann about speaking on her relationship and marriage to the Count, cheating on her from season 3. Ramona's apology comes off, I think, more genuine, and even Luann says that this time around because, like I said, she's going through it. Like, she's physically, mentally, emotionally going through it. So it's like, of course, this apology is genuine because she's like, dang, I didn't know it was like this. And, what's the saying? Shouldn't throw stones if you live in a glass house, something, yada, yada, yada. In episode 10, we see Ramona contemplate working it out again with Mario because she's telling Avery, like, has your father told you, he wants to fight for me? He wants to work it out. He misses his family. And Avery really does not want to get involved. I also found this very interesting article of the moment. Avery found out about the whole marriage relationship breakdown, and this is on Bravo TV. It's loading up. But Avery at that point did not. She was like, you know what? You're my mom. He's my dad. I just want you both to be happy. And I think you can also blame that on Avery's maturity and just like the fact that she was older. So it's like she knew how to handle it better. But we do know that she did not talk to Mario for a while, and he had to really grovel to get in good graces back with his daughter, his only child. So Ramona reveals how Avery found out about Mario, and this is also an excerpt from her memoir, Life of the Ramona Coaster. So I'm assuming the other one I read was definitely. She said a few days later, Mario got voicemail from a woman saying that if he didn't give her money, she was going to go to the press. At that point, there had been only one article, which had been damaging enough. The last thing we needed while we were trying to salvage our marriage was a full-blown media firestorm. Just the threat of it was so stressful that we got into a huge fight. Avery was in her room on the other end of the house, but she heard us screaming at one another. She told me later that it felt like something out of a movie. She described hearing me yell something like, quote unquote, what are you going to do? We need to protect Avery. And her father answer, I don't know. It's your problem, Ramona. Deal with it. She couldn't make out a lot of what we were saying, so she crept down the staircase and stood listening at the bottom. That's when she heard her father say, quote unquote, Ramona, I am one step away from walking out that door. And me scream back, why don't you just go F her? It kills me to think how painful it must have been for Avery to hear us say those things. She told me later that at that moment she felt as if her world had shattered into a million jagged little pieces. She snapped and she just ran. She ran out the door into a torrential rainstorm and collapsed onto the ground. She pulled out her cell phone and did what any teenage girl would do when she realizes her life is falling apart. She called her best friend. That's when Mario must have heard her outside. Avery was screaming and hysterically crying and not realizing that she had overheard us arguing. He thought she was in physical pain, so he had ran out after her into the pouring rain. But when he tried to approach her, she screamed, don't come near me. You cheated on mommy. F you. I hate you. Don't come closer. Get away from me. Mario came to get me, and eventually we got Avery to calm her down enough to come back inside. Later, Avery told me that she had asked Mario not to tell me what she had heard because she didn't want to upset me, but I think he didn't know what else to do, so he told me anyway. So we're also getting insight in the Life of Ramona Coaster, the moment where Avery found out, her dad cheated on Ramona. But Avery and Mario had a lot to overcome. just fixing that relationship. It was very strained because, Avery was so like shocked and disheartened by the news of her dad cheating on Ramona. That was kind of season 6. Season 7, the season 6 rap party, and then season 7. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like 30 minutes in already. I want to talk about Ramona's behavior throughout season 7, because I felt like season 7 is probably Ramona's best time, and season 8, where we just see her fun, lighthearted, having a good time. Ramona's very vulnerable, but she's trying to get her groove back very quickly. I mean, for someone that was married for 25 years, like, she bounced back. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it was difficult. She tried, but you would think, it seems as though she had already received her closure and she was kind of ready to get back out there, going out on dates, experimenting more with her clothes. She was just letting loose. It was like how Ramona got her groove back. Ramona's often the voice of reason, also, I said during this season. And she's not really having any big blow-ups with anyone. She's really the voice of reason, besides Bethany when Bethany first comes on. But that's really just a power struggle, an alpha struggle. She doesn't really have any beef with anyone that season at all. She really doesn't. I'm trying to think, because I am watching it now. Like, there's little spats here and there, but she gets over, like, it's not about Ramona beefing with anyone this season. It's about Ramona apologizing to these folks, letting them know about her successful marriage that did fall apart, and her really just trying to put her life back together and date. So we don't really see her. There's no huge contentions in the group besides for 3-4 episodes with Bethany, until Bethany invites her to her birthday. She's always worried about Sonia. Her and Luann are fine. Her and Luann are the next, like, dating gals. Like, they're hanging out, the whole St. Bart's thing, bringing that man back. Luann covering for her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Ramona is the lightest she has been. So it makes me think, like, oh my gosh, a dead weight was definitely lifted off your shoulders, 110%. And I did think it was interesting as I was watching, because there was a scene where Heather, Kristen, and do you guys remember Kristen? I would like her back. I just want the OGs back so bad. There was a scene, and then with Carol and Luann, and I think it was after the boxing match, and they're just like, majority of the ladies were like, they believe that Ramona knew about his infidelity, and she chose to look the other way. Whereas Carol was like, I definitely think it's possible that she thought she had a successful relationship and that Mario was not cheating. So I just thought it was interesting to hear Heather's, at least, perspective that, like, come on. And then Luann, who has known her the longest, was like, she definitely knew. But I think it's interesting how Sonia's never really talked about it. She's like, oh, I'm shocked she hasn't asked me, given what I've been through. But I will say Sonia is a real one, because Sonia has never given a confessional or any scene with any of the other ladies about Mario's infidelity. And we know Sonia has connections. Though she milks them dry, and she will let you continuously know that she has those connections. Sonia knows people, and I do think Sonia knew about this when it hit, and I think she was privy to a lot of information, and I think she chose to keep her mouth shut because she knows how Ramona is. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, that's up to you, but I'm just saying, I just wonder how much Lady Morgan really knew. Like, what did you really know? And you bit your tongue out of the defense of your friend, because she was not being messy at all that season about the whole Mario thing. Like, she was not. She did not give us one talking head about that relationship. And I wish I watched the reunion before filming part 2, because maybe she gave us something there. But I really think she kept her mouth quiet, because I do think she's heard things. Like Luann. You know what I mean? I think she's definitely heard things. So let's get into what led to Mario's infidelity. Let's get into, like, his reasoning as to why he cheated on the mother of his kid and his wife of 25 years, and the reasoning he gave Ramona. We talked about how he said he was just angry, and I'm giving her a handwritten letter explaining why he was angry. But I also want to get into, like, the real specifics of what I personally think it was. before we move on to Life of a Ramona coaster, I want to talk about some talking heads in that. But so his reasons was he felt emasculated by Ramona, that she was emasculating him. And I also want to click this link real quick before, so I can get that ready. And he also just said that he didn't like the way she talked to him. He claimed he was also going through a midlife crisis. And I want to talk about what I personally think it was. I don't think a lot of, and I talked about this in my part one, I don't think a lot of house husbands that commit to these shows with their wives expect their wives to get so famous. Bravo famous, and we talk about this a lot with, I talk about this a lot with like people that I watch Bravo shows with. We talk about how you get the Denise Richards, you get the Garcelle Bouvets on these reality shows, these housewife shows, and how essentially they were famous before, but Bravo stardom is a total different stardom than reality TV stardom, if you know what I mean, or like being a celebrity and actor stardom. You kind of, when you're Bravo famous, like you are kind of this god in this ultimate universe. Like, like you got Geek Thons, you got Science Thon, whatever that stuff is, game like, it's different thons. You got Bravo Thon, BravoCon, I said Thon. So yeah, I feel like housewife famous is different than celebrity famous, and I think he was not anticipating his housewife, who was genuinely a housewife, but she worked, to become this famous. And I think he was threatened by her success. I think a lot of the men that end up on these franchises end up being threatened by their wives' success. They either embrace it or they don't. And then that's why we hear about so many of these divorces. I don't think a lot of them anticipate how famous their wives are going to get. And I have this article from Bravo TV about the turning point in the relationship. And this is also, is this an excerpt from it? No, this is just from People magazine, but Bravo TV also got the quote too. Just talking about essentially that turning point. And it seems as though when it kind of flipped, it seems like it literally flipped when this happened. So I want to get into this article. It says, although the newly single Ramona Singer has admitted that she's having fun dating again, we witnessed the impact of divorce has had on the Real Housewives of New York star. As her split from Mario is being finalized, the outspoken blonde opened up about why things started to fall apart. It, quote unquote, it was a success as a celebrity reality star, and it was my success as a celebrity reality star and notoriety that bothered him, she tells People magazine. If someone said, can I take a photo with Ramona, or interrupted our conversation at dinner, he would get upset. Despite a 22-year history, the pair, who most friends describe them as a dream couple, began drifting apart. I think he felt that we were no longer a team, she explained. Quote unquote, he could have jumped in, but he continued to be passive. She continued. As his resentment grew, Mario began an affair, something that eventually was unforgivable to Ramona. The affair, quote unquote, the affair was really a symptom of unhappiness, she said. It's still betrayal. In addition to doing something Andy has never seen before in the upcoming RHONY. Okay, so that's when it says she's releasing Life on a Ramona coaster later this month. So this was July 10th, 2015. So that's when she talks about that's really the turning point. And I also have another quote, and I'm trying to see when do I bring it up, because I'm going to bring it up now, but I might bring it up again. But I know I quoted this somewhere. I don't know if it's from Life of Ramona Coaster, which we're about to get into, but there's definitely a point where she says once he found out how much she was signed on for season 6, that's when he started behaving differently and feeling emasculated. She was probably one of the top housewives making a lot of money at that point. She was the only OG that had stayed on consecutively. Remember, season 6, Luann was not technically a housewife, even though she was on there more than Aviva Drescher. Luann was not on there because she was not being honest about her relationship with Jock and where she was living. Was she living in New York? Was she living in Hamptons? Was she living in Connecticut? So they had downgraded her because they were like, you need to be more honest. So Ramona at that point was the only true housewife OG, and her name had a lot of pull. A lot of people It was Ramona Singer. Ramona Singer, you like her or hate her, she is the Mount Rushmore when it comes to housewives from different cities. Um, but New York City has birthed a lot of them. Because I would even say Luann's up there, Dorinda's up there, Sonia's up there. But it's like everyone knows Ramona Singer and Luann, I would probably say. Luann de Lesseps and Sonia Sexy J. But let's get into the life of a Ramona coaster. I really want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Mario Singer revelations that I found. And this is Reddit edition. So thanks so much to that Reddit thread that helped me because I was not about to read that book. We don't got time for that. I was like, I need the quick notes version, whatever it used to be called in college. We used to find those quick notes or whatever. It used to be called something. So I just have some bullet points. So initially, she had signed on to the show to hype up Mario Singer's True Faith Jewelry Company. Ramona Singer was not going to do the show initially, you guys. Like, can you believe that? She was actually not going to, because she was like, she's already living a happy life. Like, she has the husband, she has the kid, and she actually had called production. I think I have this in here somewhere. She actually called production to back out last minute, and they like convinced her to do it. So it's like she was not going to be on there. Also, there's a lot of tea and stuff on there about Jill, but I didn't even focus on Jill because I'm focused on Mario. Maybe I'll focus on Ramona and Jill's relationship on a different what's the reality. But Ramona also told her family for season 3 that she officially was going to start behaving like herself. So if you thought Ramona was herself season 1 and 2, she doesn't really truly become her Ramona self form until season 3, Scary Island. Oh, the infamous Scary Island. That's when we really see Ramona kind of open up her shell. You know, season 3 and up is kind of the true Ramona. Like season 1 and 2, I guess you would say she was on her best behavior. In terms of season 4 in Morocco, she felt like the psychic was a setup. She did not believe that it was a real psychic. She was not fond of a certain producer from season 4 and was actually considered quitting the show. Quote on the Mario cheating on her, quote unquote, I was completely blindsided by the revelation that Mario had been cheating on me. I never even saw it coming. It would have been so easy to give in to depression and let my body fall apart, but I decided not to allow that to happen. I started working with a personal trainer and eating healthier. I actually look better now than I did 10 years ago. Things started going downhill. So this is when I talk about like the check and when he found out how much she was making. So she talks about this in her book. She said things started going downhill when Mario found out how much money Ramona was making for season 6 of RHONY. So at this point, they really upped her. I guess that's why Lisa Barlow's not in the first episode of Salt Lake City. Maybe that's why she's like, at season 6, I'm an OG, where's my extra money? I guess season 6 is when they kind of start demanding extra. But she had been signed on to a lot. And I'm wondering if I can find out how much she was making on season 6. I'm about to really do a quick Google. So I don't know if this is specific to season 6, but it seems as though she got a significant salary increase for season 5. It was a huge bump. And then Luann also got a huge bump for season, was it 5? It may have been, 5, and then obviously she was dumb. But they were saying she was reportedly making up to, in her final time on RHONY, $500 per season, $500K per season, which honestly isn't even that much when you look at Atlanta, how much they were paying Nene Leakes or Vicky and Tamra from OC, even Shannon. Maybe not Shannon, but I know Vicky was making a lot. Teresa Giudice was making a lot more than $500K. But $500K per season, I mean, it's a lot. To film for 4 months, that's a lot. And a reunion commitment, everyone should want to be a housewife. So she says in her book, things started really going downhill when Mario found out how much money she was making for season 6, though specifically. I cannot find those specific numbers. What are the odds when she is signing on for season 6? When they start ramping up for filming? When those final letters go out, package deals. That's when his whole midlife crisis starts and his alleged affair with Kasey Dexter started. Do I even need to say alleged? I mean, it's proven that he was having an affair. Also, she says that his business for True Faith Jewelry was struggling. Things started to go downhill when Mario found, so this is a quote from her book. Things started to go downhill when Mario found out how much I was making for season 6 of The Real Housewives of New York. At the time, she writes, Mario had just turned 60 and his business was struggling, but his wife had become famous and was earning a great salary. He was on a path leading him further and further from our marriage. Meanwhile, I was deteriorating physically and emotionally. I was disappearing into myself. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I knew once Avery went back to college, I would be alone with Mario, and I was beginning to realize that I couldn't be around him anymore. It felt like no matter what I did, he seemed to be getting angrier and angrier with me. I think he was, in fact, angry with himself for being unfaithful, but he turned his rage on me because he couldn't handle the guilt. He never laid a hand on me, but he would get this white rage in his eyes and I began to feel very threatened and afraid, she writes. His anger began to take a toll on my mental health, on Ramona's mental health. The stress of everything became unimaginable and it began to wreak havoc on my mind, body, and spirit. There were times when I was so low that I almost felt like throwing myself in front of a subway train. I was so anxious and depressed that my doctor put me on anxiety medication. I think it was at that point that Mario finally began to see how much of a toll everything we were going through had taken on me. And I looked at the camera about the medication thing because what is this? It's season 6. A lot of people said season 6, she acted very frantic, very like, what is going on, Ramona? Very jumpy. She says in her book, her doctor put her on anxiety medication. You mix that with the alcohol, you got a frantic goose on the rise. I don't know what saying that is. It makes sense now. Everything from season 6 makes sense now. It makes sense as to why she was acting crazy. She was on anxiety medication because Mario was very upset with her that summer. And then when you're on that medication with you in the Hamptons having a good time with your girls, you're filming, you got scenes, you're barely home, you got call times. Yeah, you might not know that he's stepping out, running in and out of the house, because you're barely there too. Avery's away at college. It all makes sense. So it's like, when people talk about her behavior from season 6, which I also talked about in my first part, when I started doing more research, I kind of connected it out. So I'm like, of course she was acting very crazy that season. She was on medication because her marriage was already in turmoil. Her relationship was already in a very difficult place as soon as he had found out how much she was making. I don't know how he found out that information. That information is not disclosed. Was he going through her mail? There's something. He was snooping and he found some information and he did not like the fact that she was making more and he felt emasculated. And he was like, in order for when that happens with men, in order for them to gain any sense of masculinity, they're like, let's do something masculine. Let's go cheat on our wife. Let's go gamble. Let's go, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like he felt like he was losing control. True Faith was not working anymore. Not shocking. Ramona Pinot Grigio selling off the charts. Ramona Rosé is out. You know, it's not shocking to me that when she's going through all this is when he decided to step out of his relationship. And the actual physical and mental toll. So those were some bullet points, excerpts from Reddit on, the book, Life of a Ramona Coaster. I just lost my train of thought. I want to talk now about Mario and Kasey Dexter's relationship and messy breakup. So they ended up dating for 5 years, 2013 to 2018. Very on and off relationship, spotted out a lot in the Hamptons. They resided, though, in Florida, West Palm Beach, which is not a good place for New York City people because we had Tinsley there, Luann's arrest. Like, I just think they should stay out from the Florida area then. And then, they were just spotted at a lot of public events. People were like, the nerve, Mario. Like, they couldn't believe that Mario was bringing his mistress to some of these events, that there was a possibility that he would run into Ramona. So it was just shocking that he felt this comfortable bringing this girl around and all of this stuff. I want to get specifically to her announcement of the divorce. So Ramona tweeted August 8th, 2014 about her marriage breakup saying, quote unquote, I've decided to move on with my life without Mario. I tried my best to make my marriage work. I'm excited for the new chapter in my life, she wrote in her post. This is after she filed for divorce in January and they have reconciled. So they were reconciling for a good 6-7 months until, let's rewind it though, you guys. We gotta timelines. Remember in July, I said Kasey Dexter had tried to tell her that she was still seeing him. And then they get a therapy session where she finds out in August that he was still in talks with Kasey. So all this is coming up days after Ramona's tweet. Literally, I have it as August 11th, 2014. Mario spotted with Kasey Dexter, and the rest is history. That she proceeds with the divorce. I'm going to get into what she got out of the divorce finalization in my last part. But I want to talk about Mario Singer and Kasey Dexter. So it took them 5 days to be spotted in a public event, public outing after she tweeted that. It's like, dang, y'all wasted no time. So Mario was 64 and she was 36 when, I think in 2014 or whatever. But remember, they first got together when I think she was freshly 30 and he was 58, 59. So an age gap, a 30-year age gap. 25, 26-year age gap. Mario and Kasey attended, like I said, multiple public outings from the city to the Hamptons to Florida. They were in a relationship for 5 years. And I also felt like it was pretty long for any mistress. I'm shocked they lasted that long of a time. However, let's get into this messy breakup of theirs that happened in 2018, which a lot of people felt like was his karma. Also, RHONY was still on in 2018. I'm like, what season was 2018? Was Ramona extra chippery? But the relationship ended abruptly when Mario Singer dumped Kasey Dexter in February 2018 after using a hidden camera to catch her having an affair in their West Palm, Florida beach home. And I actually want to bring that page 6 article up because that was just a crazy story. I had a bullet point, but I might as well just read this article. So this is from page 6. This is cited on February 7th, 2018. Says what goes around comes around, especially for Ramona Singer's ex-husband, Mario. A source told page 6 on Wednesday that Mario Singer dumped his mistress turned girlfriend, Kasey Dexter, after using a hidden camera to catch her having an affair in their West Palm Beach, Florida home. Kasey, 36, met with her new man in November, and Mario, 64, found out about her tryst on Christmas. Kasey and Mario first got together in 2013 while Mario was still married to Real Housewives star Ramona, yada, yada, yada. Quote unquote, Mario told Kasey he'll never marry her or have kids with her, so she effed up, our source tells us, claiming that he quote unquote emotionally abused her and told her that she's only good for fake tits and fake lips. The source also claimed that Mario had physically abused Kasey in the past, fracturing her hand during one altercation. I could not find any information on that besides page 6 articles, so that is alleged for sure. Once Mario discovered Kasey's affair, she woke up one morning and there was quote unquote eviction papers on her door. He quote unquote gave her 30 days to move out, but she didn't want to go anywhere because it was her home. Adding that our source adds that he allegedly offered Kasey thousands of dollars to vacate the premises, but never coughed up the cash. Mario called the police on Kasey on February 1st after he returned from New York and found her still residing in their oceanfront home. The responding officer noted in the Boca Raton police report obtained by page 6 that both sides, quote unquote, confirmed that the argument was verbal in nature and nothing physical had taken place. And Kasey still had residency rights to the property. They confirmed that they would be staying in separate bedrooms for the remainder of the evening, and the police left. Kasey has since applied to new apartments. So this is from 2018. They're being messy. They're like, she's living basically out of her bags. Obviously, she's not listening, but she's not still living out of bags now. Hopefully not from 2018. But It says if she goes back, she'll be arrested. She's living out of bags now. This is as of 2018. If she goes back to the home, she'll get arrested for trespassing, and all of her stuff is there. She's going to have to go back to the apartment with a police escort, our source claimed. Despite Kasey leaving the former couple's home, Mario is still out for revenge. He told her that he, quote unquote, wants to ruin her life and break her down. He's a man scorned, the source said. Still, our source insists that Kasey didn't mean to hurt him. She just fell in love with someone else. So their breakup was super messy. It seems as though he didn't caught her cheating with somebody. And yes, he caught her cheating. Literally called the cops, like Ramona actually did when she caught them cheating. And yeah, that was the end of their relationship. I don't think they had any rekindlement after that because obviously his ego was bruised. He was like, what are you doing? They ended in 2018. And I think it's in 2018 is when we kind of see Mario again start coming back on the Real Housewives franchises and make like smaller appearances. Let's get into this divorce finalization and wrap this up. So everything Ramona got and Mario got, I'm watching season 7, but I do vaguely remember season 8 that she was already divorced. It happened very relatively fast because she compared it to Bethany and Jason Hoppy. Like, she doesn't know why it's taking them forever to get divorced. The final call off of the relationship before Ramona filed for divorce. After separating in January, after catching him cheating, then they eventually got back together to rectify the relationship. However, the final call obviously was July 23rd, 2014. And I literally have this other article. This is from People magazine that I have to read because it talks about like basically Avery and where she stood with the whole thing once her mom had officially filed for divorce again in August. So Avery has been supporting obviously Ramona, Mario's behavior. This is Ramona speaking to People magazine. She said, Mario's behavior is embarrassing to me and my daughter. We aren't embarrassed. We are embarrassed for him. Singer, who says she kicked Mario out on July 24th. This is 2014, announced the split on Twitter on August 7th. Like I said, and he was spotted out with the mistress August 11th. Several days after Mario and his alleged girlfriend, Kasey, 32, had been caught on camera by a tabloid. They were again spotted in public together. Singer says she gave Mario many chances following a cheating scandal earlier that year. Things had come to a head on July 23rd when she confronted Mario about Dexter in their therapist's office. She says he denied that he had been in contact with her. When she pushed him about it the next day, he confessed that he had seen Dexter. Quote unquote, I told Mario it's over because he lied to me about still being in contact with this Kasey. I said, you are a liar. You are a betrayer. I don't want you in my life anymore. I tried to make it work for a year and that's it. I'm done. She further states, my daughter even said to him, if you don't want to be with mommy, then do the right thing and split up. She's angry at him. It's upsetting. So you guys see the final call off before him and Kasey were spotted canoodling around the city before their ultimate demise in 2018. But that's it. The timelines are very quick, tight, very sudden. We got the July 23rd, the August 7th, the August 11th. You know, it all happened very fast. Apparently, let's get into what she got out of the divorce, which was really hard to kind of find out. Yeah. She also I also want to say she told Us Weekly that she left him a note saying, quote unquote, please don't come to the house in the Hamptons and please get an apartment. I don't want to see you anymore. And that was it. And then, like I said, Ramona tweeted on August 8th about her marriage breakup, saying she's decided to move on without her life. And this is after she filed for divorce. And then, of course, cameras pick up September 2014 for RHONY season 7 filming. What did Ramona get from the divorce? Ramona and Mario divorce was finalized. Okay, so I'm like literally missing some notes. Okay, here it is. I'm like, what did they get? So it was very hush hush. Like I said, season 8, she makes a comparison to her divorce versus like Bethany and Jason Hoppy. She was like, it was easy to get divorced, you know. And I remember her talking to Dorinda or someone. She was like, we got divorced relatively fast. She said she wanted property, he wanted money. I tried to look at the numbers because, you know, I can find the numbers about Portia Williams and like what she really got out of that divorce. I could not find what Ramona genuinely got out of the divorce besides reciting back to that season. So I was able to find something that Mario has said. He told OK Magazine that the fact is I signed over the condominium to Ramona in exchange for a financial settlement on both our Southampton house and our New York City apartment. I received half the value of our two homes, as the divorce laws of New York clearly state that there is to be equitable distribution in a divorce. He then said, do you actually believe that I will walk away with nothing after 22 years of marriage where I contributed to our net worth? Okay, so it seems as though he wanted money and she kept the properties. So that's all I could really find over like what did they literally get. I wanted to talk about Ramona's behavior throughout the rest of her time on RHONY. And, you know, she's clearly longing for a partner. She dates though. Like she doesn't have a shortage of men or like dates. Like she has fun in that aspect. Even her definition, I said, of sex changes because you guys remember season 9 when they're talking about anal or whatever, and she thinks as a Christian woman or like oral and stuff, like we see Ramona evolve, also go back to her old ways. But even I remember her being at the bar talking with her one friend how she wants to be held at night, and I don't really see her in any relationships. I was looking in the press, she was dating this billionaire at one point, I think for like a year or something, but I think this was like more so closer to like 2021, 22. But she doesn't really have any man on RHONY as we know. I think season 7 and 8, Ramona is like mostly like the lightest and like the most vulnerable, but we see the biggest shift of Ramona during season 9 and her terrible behavior because she's like bringing up Bethany's daughter, like has her daughter seen that one movie with her like naked on the waterbed. I also said she seemed very erratic. It was giving me season 6 again, but this time she seemed more angry because she was just a little messy too and just mean. And she was like, just mentioned, but she also wasn't there. Like, I don't think she was really there. There was rumors though that she was on Xanax and Adderall that season, allegedly, because a lot of people had noted her bizarre, strange behavior. Allegedly. But Ramona and Mario's divorce was officially finalized September 2016. So it literally took them 2 years. So by season 8, she was officially divorced, which is what we're seeing. Which is what we see in season 8 when she does compare it to Bethany. Like it didn't really take long because she filed August 2014 and they were officially done September 2016. So Mario has now made several appearances. I mean, if you watch OG RHONY, and I'm talking about seasons probably like, if you watch seasons 10 and 11, yeah, because 12, they got rebranded. Was it 12 or 13? I think it was 13. He makes an appearance. He shows up to Miami for their one girls trip. I think that was season 10 or 11. It could have been 10 or 11. I think it may have been 11, actually. And then Ramona just makes it a big point to let us know that like their co-parenting relationship is good. They are on a good basis. We see Mario on screen when he's taking Ramona and Avery out. Like they seem to be on better terms, less tense terms, where they need to be at in life. So, like I said, Ramona and Mario are fine. Life after RHONY, you know, after the huge mix-up, which I hope Andy Cohen will forever regret. Ramona and Mario ended up quarantining together during COVID with Avery at Mario's home in Boca Raton, Florida. And like I said, Ramona has since maintained that their relationship is strictly platonic, no romance there. That was your part 2. What do I think would happen? I think Mario got threatened by her success. She was on the rise. Season 6, she's popping. RHONY was popping. And I think a lot of the men, and like I said it earlier, I think a lot of the men are threatened by their women's success. I think that number he saw for season 6, he was like Now, how are you making all of this with this show? I don't think when these men sign on to these reality shows to support their wives, they don't think that this show, this little network, Bravo, is going to really boost their significant other into this certain type of stardom. So yes, when you are out and people are asking for your picture to be taken, like, oh my gosh, saying hi to you, you as a man, I mean, I don't say a true man, but they feel very threatened. Mario was not in a position to be providing. His business was struggling and he was having a midlife crisis. I think they are better off co-parenting, but we haven't even seen Ramona. So I would have loved for RHONY to still be on right now so I could really like compare and contrast an old Ramona with a new one. All I have is really those 2-3 seasons. Well, I guess it was like a good 6 seasons when they weren't together. So we do kind of see, you know, I think she seemed a lot more happier. I think Ramona is a natural dater, and I don't think she has an issue getting men winking that eye. She was able to snap right back into it. The sun has completely set. That was your part two. I just have some light right now. But yes, that was your part two on what's the reality on Ramona and Mario Singer's divorce. Stay tuned for the next topic. I think my what's the reality on what the reality will definitely be in Bravo universe. Some topics I might start diving into VH1 and MTV. I'm really interested in the reality TV realm though, in those dynamics, friendship fallouts, friendship breakups, you know, divorces, marriages, shady stuff like that that happens on screen that we really want to talk about off screen. If you have any ideas or any other dynamics you really want me to tap into, let me know. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I like to give it a week or two to really think about, but the next one won't be until October for sure. I'm not going to be releasing one in September at all. So it might be 2 or 3 weeks. I like to do two a month because I like to have 2 parts. So I will let you guys know as the date comes closer to the next what's the reality on what the reality. Until the next time, make sure you guys run up and listen to part 1. And don't forget to tune in for my Toxic Tuesdays. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.